for the board and commission candidates. And first I want to tell you one thing. Thank you if you have served. Thank you for just applying for the first time. Thank you because you're a very special part of the city's mechanism. We'll do the interviews tonight, but the formal vote won't be until the 15th of this month. So we're going to start. Amy, you want to start the first one?
Yep, for the Board of Building Appeals, David Hansford.
Just give your name and address. And
my name is David Hansford. My address is 6918 State Route 43 in Kent. I've been doing this for 58 years. I'm state licensed, and if anybody else would like the job, they're more than welcome.
all right, we might have a question. Maybe we won't. Wait, stay, Dave. Is there any questions for Dave? Heidi.
Yeah. Why do you do it?
Why do I do it?
Mm-hmm.
You need an income.
No. Why do you want to be on the Board of Building Appeals? I don't think we pay for that.
Well, because basically I got on it, I believe, 12 or 15 years ago, and nobody else would fill the vacancy, and they talked me into it, and they haven't been able to talk me out of it yet.
Well,
But I would gladly step aside to any other contractor that would like to take my place. But in the meantime, I'm happy to serve.
I do want to say thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions? You're good to go, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Next one.
Okay,
Board of Health.
Next is Board of Health, Evan Howe.
We need one vacancy to fill. Name and address for the record, and kind of give us an idea why.
My name is Evan Howe. I live at 407 Wilson Avenue here in Kent. I've been a member of this community for the past year and a half. I stepped onto the Board of Health last year. I've been thrilled to serve. I'm a family physician. I teach family medicine over at Akron City Hospital and have a great interest in public health and the health of the community. I've been very excited to have served this past year and participate, learn a lot about the sanitation side of what goes on in the health department, but as well as some of the equity work that we've done, some of the conversations we've had about serving our unhoused population here in Kent, and some ways that we can do some disease reduction spread.
Okay.
At that, so.
The questions, Mr. Sterling.
Yeah, did anything surprise you when you were on the board? Sorry about that.
I mean, I think for me, again, on some of the sanitation and inspection side of things isn't necessarily where my professional expertise has been, so I think it's been very interesting learning the number of things that sort of fall under the building safety codes that is part of that expertise of the health department as well. So that's been very interesting.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Further questions? Heidi?
How do you think your experience and your professional experience has contributed to the Board of Health?
So as a primary care physician, I previously, when I was a full-time clinician, and now that I'm in the teaching side of things, I do a great amount of conversations with individuals one-on-one. And there's only so much that I can do to really meet the needs of my patients in the office visit encounter. And throughout that, though, I accumulate a great amount of the needs that, whether it's transportation, housing, or social determinants of health, and social responsibility. The corollary to that is not just what characteristics of the individual, but social responsibility is what are the responsibilities of the community towards those individuals in that bidirectional way. And so this is in very much a way an extension of what I do in the clinic, is being able to create healthy communities, healthy environments for people to live in, and look at how those disparities are played out on sort of the larger city and system level.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for wanting to come back.
Amy, got another name?
The other applicant, Zena Salman. I do not see her here.
Not here?
Nope.
Okay.
Okay, so Board of Zoning Appeals, we have Steve Protzman. He is here.
Steve, give your name and address and kind of an idea why you want to be here.
Stephen Broadsman. I live at 1203 North Manaway Street in Kent. I have served on the Board of Zoning Appeals for 2 years already, have enjoyed it immensely, have learned so much about not only our zoning, but our city, and get to work with a great team of people. I think the skills I have, including a background in architecture, a good sense of detail, ability to read plans and things, has been useful. And I also think that as a member of the community, I get so much. I have a clean, safe, well-maintained, and fun city to live in. And it's good to be able to give back in a small way by serving on that board.
Super, super, but you're part of this situation, so it's all good. Do we have Amy, or Heidi, I mean?
Yeah, so can you talk a little bit more about your specific role on the BZA?
So I currently serve as chair of the board. Paul recruited me 2 years ago when I came to a meeting to speak out about a concern that came before the board, and he says, hey, you ought to be part of this. And you were chairing at the time. I was chair. And then it was time for you to step down, and several others did, and I was in the line of succession, and so now I lead our 3-person board.
Roger.
Yeah, so I'm going to ask you the same question. Were there any surprises, or was there something that stood out that you were unaware of in getting on the board? You know, that it's kind of been something that kind of opened your eyes that you didn't realize?
One of the biggest things I've learned is that the city of Kent has a lot of small, very odd-shaped lots that make some of our setbacks difficult to use effectively.
Oh, yeah.
But I've also met a lot of people who take pride in the city and care about Kent a lot and are doing things to improve and care for their property.
Thank you.
You gotta understand, most of Kent was built before we had codes. But that's the problem.
You remember that, huh, Mr.
Yeah.
1970 for the current zoning? 1970.
Yeah, but
I'm thinking something in there.
Okay.
what do you think, Chris?
Any other questions?
1971.
71.
Okay.
You're off. Oh, good. John, you have your hand up?
Yeah. Were there any specific issues that you'd like to see the commission address?
Could you be a little more specific?
That's what I asked you.
You know, I think it's a learning process, and we're always happy to give feedback about things. And I know the city works to adjust and change the zoning code as we learn new things. I don't have a specific issue. I do care deeply about this being a city where people own their homes, and there isn't too much or an excessive number of rentals and stuff. I've had some strong feelings about that, but once again, I've experienced landlords that care deeply about the city and maintain the properties well, which makes that whole discussion easier.
Further questions? Sienna? Thank you.
Thank you.
The other name? She's not
Michelle
here.
Fair.
She's not here.
Nope.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I didn't see her down there.
There she is.
You're hiding, Michelle, I didn't see you.
It's Michelle Farr, by the way.
Name and address and kind of an overview why you want to be back.
Yeah, so, my name and address, Michelle Farr, 1366 Nicholas Drive in Kent. And why am I reapplying? I mean, I just want to, help out, be a part of the city, and I feel like this is an easy way, but not a highly time-consuming way to do that. And that's about it, so, yeah.
Okay, questions? John, I thought you were going to get lucky.
I'll ask you the same question. Is there any specific issues that you deal with that you'd like to see addressed better?
I mean, I've only been on a year, so, and I mean, to me, I think the important part of the Board of Zoning Appeals is consistency. Like, looking at the rules you give us and being like, these have to follow. It makes the decisions really easy. It's like, well, that doesn't follow the rule, and this does. And then there's the gray area ones, and that's why we exist, right? So, but I guess, you know, I definitely think if that came up, I would be happy to like send you guys an email or address that, but nothing comes to mind off the top of my head, so.
Roger.
Yeah, I'll ask the same question. Any surprises in this year? Did anything that surprised you once you got on the board that you weren't aware of before you got on?
Well, I have to admit my husband was on the board before me, so I heard all the stories ahead of time,
So you don't like to be on?
I think we kind of had it easier than when he was on the board so far, so, and I just think, yeah, not a super big surprise, but, you know, I think that sometimes it's surprising to people, like, they just don't realize how we have the rules, and I do like the way that the city addresses it. Everyone's really kind, and they're like, oh, there's these rules we have to do, and we still have to go through the Board of Zoning Appeals, but I do think they do a great job with, you know, helping citizens get through any kind of issues they run into, so yeah. All right.
Any other questions? All right, thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, guys.
Community reinvestment, nobody applied. There is one vacancy, so on to Design and Preservation Committee.
Kathleen Enders.
Name and address and kind of why.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Kitty Endress, and I live at 691 Riverbend, which is not an old section of Kent. I currently serve on the Design and Preservation Committee, and I'd like a second term because I have this thing about old buildings. I find them wonderful. I find that they provide charm and character to every city. There is nothing more exciting than meandering through an old building, be it an old building that has been creatively reimagined, like Bell Tower Brewing. It has nothing to do with the beer, or meticulously restored, like at least one person on this city council has, or how different residents change their old building and make it reinvigorate it. And so that's why I would like to come back to the committee.
Super. Heidi?
I guess I'm really interested in what types of issues come up for this commission.
Most frequently, it's the design and preservation guidelines that you are currently considering for the city.
Mm-hmm.
Roger.
Yeah, I'm curious, what would you do with the building on the corner of Water and East Main that used to be the bank that has that godforsaken green stuff around it, you know?
What would I do?
Yeah,
with
what
it?
would you do? I'm curious. If you had a gazillion dollars, what would
A
you do?
gazillion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, okay, maybe not that.
You would go south and leave it alone.
I would probably take the green stuff off of it. I don't know when the green thing came on.
60s.
60s. And that was style then.
I
No, it
wasn't
wasn't.
living in Kent at the time.
But
I
I guess
understand that there are some really interesting things on the second and third area that I'm just dying to see. If anybody knows anybody who can get me in, but one of the main things is to try and take it back to how it originally looked, or creatively reuse it.
The green stuff was put up there to hide some things in those days. There is I don't think there is a third floor anymore. They tore that off, didn't they?
They took it off. They took it
Yeah,
off.
and I can't remember the year. Jeff?
If you come into the Historical Society, we have some great pictures of what it used to look like, and it was absolutely stunning, and didn't look stunning after they put the green stuff on, so.
Is there further?
How lucky is it that there are photographs available? So someone with that $1 zillion could just take it back to, and think about what a great space that would be for any number of different uses.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Next.
David Mertz, I don't know if he's
It's
here.
gonna look good
I don't
when
think
they
so.
put it up in the
Okay.
60s. I
Dave's
know.
not here?
And then for the Fair Housing Board, Kaylee, she just emailed me right before the meeting. She's not able to make it.
Okay.
Amy, when someone can't make it, do we have the opportunity to reschedule them?
We can if you want, however you want to do it.
We schedule or go by their application.
Okay, all right, I wasn't sure, just as long as they weren't
No, she's still,
disqualified for not being able to attend. I mean, everybody has work and family obligations. I just want to make sure that we're not.
so there were a few that contacted me, and I'll give you, if I know the reason, I'll let you know, but she just said something had come up.
Yeah.
And then she wasn't able to make it. There's several others that were like, just had surgery or other
Sure,
reasons.
yeah, just so long as,
Yeah.
okay. just
And
so-
there, she's still interested, so.
Yeah.
Very good, thank
And
you.
we got our application, so.
Nope, that's fine, thank you.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay. Parks and Recreation, there's a typo on this. It's actually Roderick Moxley, and he is here.
Perfect, thank you for that.
Thanks to Angela.
I was going to say Robert Moxley does exist. I'm Roderick Moxley Jr. I live at 709 Stenner Street. I'm a logistics warehouse manager for Gary Global. I've been employed with Gary Global going on 25 years in February. I've been a community activist as well as a community leader as far as sports and recreation goes for the last 17 years with baseball, basketball, and football. I'm currently the assistant head coach of Roosevelt basketball, as well as the 7th grade Stanton football head coach. The reason why that I'm here today is to try to help enhance the quality of life through Kent Parks and Rec in different avenues by using out-of-the-box thinking that will help structure a better or even better outcome for our youth.
Questions, John?
Given what you know of the Kent Parks and Rec program, what would you offer to make an improvement?
Just basically, I believe that we can come with different ideas that will accomplish everybody's needs. I think just on a small scale of example of thinking out the box, how many kids out here actually know how to change a tire? We had a tire changing workshop and stuff like that. I mean, we do things with babysitting and things like that. There are other avenues that we need to tap into as well.
You know, it's interesting that you had brought that topic up, because my grandson, when he was, I think, 9th grade, him and his mother came across a car with 4 college kids in it with a flat tire and scratching their heads, and they didn't have a clue, so he changed it for them.
You must have been Akron U students.
Probably.
Right.
Mountain Union, Mountain Union.
You finished, John? Any questions? Mr. Turner?
Yeah, what do you view, what are your feelings as it relates to possible deficiencies in the area of engaging the youth in the community? What would you be advocating? What would be your priority of outreach and interest in that regard?
That's a good question. The thing that I've been looking at more is our electronic use. The kids are not using their imaginations more. They're not being one with nature more. They're lacking social skills. Some kids don't even know how to talk on the phone, answer a phone. You can bet that they're not able to interview for a job correctly. So it's all know how to attack, and it's just like eating an elephant one bite at a time.
I was wondering, I used to play Little League Baseball, and I guess it's different now. The teams don't, when I grew up, we actually had a team that came from the south end of Kent. We were very good. The issue is they don't do that anymore. And I think there's a lack of kind of like bonding when kids leave their neighborhood and have to go and be chosen. I don't even know how they create teams anymore. But I look at the lack of participation in some of the neighborhoods, because I think that one of the issues is a comfort level to get kids to actually come to teams where they actually live. They already know the people, they get together and they go to practice and they do all this thing. Do you see that as a possibility? I don't know why they went to the particular methodology that they employ now, but I just remember when we used to be kids, how it was done. They looked at where you came from and that's where you played.
Across the board in most of the major sports, except for, I would say, basketball and soccer, the numbers are low. Participation is low because they're not being exposed to it. When we were little, like it goes back to electronics. When we were little, our time, we were watching sports on TV. We wanted to be that. Now, they're electronically watching just snippets of highlights and not really understanding the game. And then when they get the opportunity to go out there and play and they don't have success at it, they don't want it to come back. So that's where you're losing them at. It's not that, you don't have it at a certain point. You do. You're just getting a drop off because you're not seeing success. And at the end of the day, that's something that we have to tap into. Again, it's not easy, but right now our children are more concerned about being with the latest fashion and different things like that, and not as far as evolving as a person.
You done, Heidi?
I want to say I really like your holistic approach to what we would consider to be recreation, but it really does get at the notion that these are opportunities coaching kids through life, not just getting better at a sport, but they have to want to show up. And I had another issue when my son was going through the school system. 40 kids went out for basketball at the middle school, and they picked, 10 kids or something like that out of those 40, and the 30 said, well, too bad, there's nothing for you in this community. And that was disappointing. I don't know whether that has been resolved with intramural sports or...
Yes. As far as basketball, intramurals has been established, and that has helped out that part of kids feeling excluded. To go back to Robin's point, another avenue could be transportation. If we can figure out an avenue with that, I can remember in Cleveland for John F. Kennedy Rec Center, they actually had a van system. So if you have a local van now, we're able to pick up those kids to able to practice that parents can't get them there. And that's most of the reason why our numbers are low, because parents don't have the resources for their kids to participate. Although that the resources for them to participate is simple if they don't have the means to pay the same. But as far as getting them physically there, that's still another hurdle that parents are dealing with.
Roger.
Yeah, Roger, I really appreciate the focus on the kids. I think that's real important. I want to shift gears on it a little bit. When, school relating situations like the varsity team or the JV team, things like that, there seems to be an overemphasis at times by many parents about the competition part of it, rather than those things that you're talking about, the growth, the need to understand, sometimes the most important person on the team is the one who plays the least, but is providing, different types of leadership. So how do you deal with those parents? How would you deal with them? I know how I had to deal with them. How would you deal with them?
I mean, sometimes parents have to hear that, you can't live for your children.
Yeah.
They have to live their own life, and you have to trust that the things that you're teaching at home is set as a good foundation. And it does take a village to raise a child, and parents are not the only ones. Parents are not the only ones that have an effect on a child's life. I didn't know how much coaching would affect kids' life until I have a group of kids that's in college now and graduated, and they tell me that I'm their life coach. And that means more to me than just watching them hit a ball, catch the ball, put a ball in the basket. The other thing I also think is, and I'm talking about the youth, but when I was younger, being a child and being a young person, I involved myself around the elderly, and not my parents so much, but my great uncles and my great aunts, and that's what I think we're missing too. A lot of kids don't get to hear or be around the elderly, and we're losing that respect for how things should be or were. And some things were good back in the day and need to stay, and some things weren't good back in the day, so we need to have a voice and let the kids hear that voice, so they're not just learning from their own peers, so to say.
Anybody else? My question, and believe me, I coached under the Parks and Rec from T-ball up to they went to high school. We had a pretty good team, Robin. They're from all over the town. Anyhow, 10 years ago it didn't bother me as much as it does now. I knew it was a concern, but now I got old. How do you feel that senior program shouldn't be fit in our Park and Rec system?
How do I feel that senior
programs?
Oh.
I mean, you talked about the youth, but I didn't hear.
Definitely.
I didn't hear anything from 55 and above.
Yes, yes. I mean, as far as the seniors, extremely important to me. First of all, I've been blessed. Both of my parents are in their 70s, right? My father's been living with multiple sclerosis since 1981. It's a blessing to be able to give quality life to the elderly and the people that's becoming into that stage of their life. We need to have programs for them as well, where they can feel like, when you get older, you're losing people around you, and you're seeing that. You need more groups able to have different connections. I don't know if we have bingo here or anything like that. It's just a lot of ideas that I have that I can tap into. And again, it's a lot of out-of-the-box thinking. But at the end of the day, the most important people on this earth are our elderly and our youth.
I often walk in the office and my clerk corners me, then they got the city manager's administrative assistant is, why don't we have pickleball?
Yeah.
I don't know.
The Parks and Rec.
But the Parks did a survey, so I'm anxious to see the outcome of that survey.
Mr. Mayor, the Parks just completed a capital improvement plan, so the board is in the process of reviewing the results of that whole packet of information, and it's something that they're considering very carefully. Believe me, if we could put a pickleball court, if there was space available, it would happen, but there's a lot of cost, a lot of planning that goes into it, and the board is really carefully considering it along with our Parks and Rec director. So it's not for lack of interest or trying, it's just a matter of making sure it fits and it's cost effective and it's reflective of what the residents are really looking.
They reconstruct tennis courts for it, so they can play both on a tennis court.
I don't know if the high school's ready to give them up just yet, but we'll see. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? John, you have your hand up?
Yeah, I'm quite impressed, Robert. The only thing that can...
It's Roger.
Roger.
It's a typo.
That's the typo?
Yeah.
Okay, Roger, write that down. The only thing that I'm confused about, I'm trying to figure out if you're becoming an applicant for the Parks and Rec or ministry. Because, you know, you're saying a lot of good stuff.
Further question, Robin?
Yeah, I'll let you go. You caught the wave tonight. There's a lot of people asking questions. I don't normally have that many. My interest right now, though, is trying to find a way, and all I can reflect back on is what I grew up with. When I grew up, the sports that you went through, where I came from, were baseball and football. And that was based on access. We didn't necessarily have a lot of basketball courts, but at least we had one in the South End. But the major sports were football and baseball because the fields were closer and people had access to them. I think you've kind of spoken to that. How do we get people and expose the kids to multiple sports venues, and therefore giving them the opportunity to relate to the different sports. Right now they've kind of moved more even to soccer, which there are not any fields in my neighborhood for that, but there are some where the town comes together. That's an issue for every neighborhood. I was just wondering, is that something that you think, I think maybe you get time to sit down to work toward trying to do, exposing young people how we would go about doing that, but exposing them to kind of multiple sports and the venues to be able to participate in those sports?
Yes, well, that's what we promote exactly at the high school too. We want multi-sport athletes, right? But we were lacking in facilities for a long time, and now we're catching up. So we still have catching up to do, and that's definitely the aim. The aim is to continue to have more participation. And the only way to do that is to have quality anonymity to be able to do that.
Thank you.
Roger, one more.
Yeah, one more. So, who do the Rough Riders open up with here this basketball season?
Hudson.
Hudson, oh, geez, okay.
Got our first scrimmage tomorrow night.
That's very cool. Yeah, good
All
luck.
right, anybody else? Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, planning commission.
First candidate, Nacer, he had to attend last night's planning commission meeting, so he was unable to attend 2 in a row. So he will not be here this evening, but he's still very interested in being on the planning commission. So next would be Paul Selman.
Name and address and why this interests you.
Well, officially, Paul Selman. I live at 1138 Air Drive. Excuse me. Mustache going where it doesn't belong. I'm going to segue on Roger. I'm involved with another youth program that is also very interested in getting youth involved in stuff. Boy Scouts. I've been Boy Scout leader for over 30 years. And we're facing the same problem. We get kids' face out of the electronics and out to camp, in sports, and things that interact with other human beings face to face, not with the gentleman over here. We put you on the spot, but over there with the phone. Okay, anyhow, now I have to share this right up front. Robin encouraged me to run. He cornered me last week down on, or 2 days ago down the corner of Franklin Brian, a crossing guard now, young people. And so I decided to put my name down. As far as Kent, I grew up in Kent. I'm a lifetime resident. I did have a stint in the Navy, and I had a very short stint in Ashtabula with the telephone company, but in both cases I came back to Kent. And I've been involved in several family businesses here in Kent. Bent Tree Coffee is in one of our businesses, and I don't know, Copen Machine owns our machine shop building, where we provided a nice field for you folks on the south end to play ball. If you remember Robin, yeah, see? So I have chosen, I've had several opportunities to move away in quality moves and decided not to stay. So Kent's my home, and we're not moving again. We're in the third and final house. It's my kids' problem to deal with it. So as far as some side things, I'm active, I'm a veteran, I'm active in the American Legion here in Kent. I just got on their board, I'm their chaplain. And this is a career piece, but I was project manager / engineer for Alltel. So I've been around planning and large project type analysis and evaluations 30-year career. And to some degree, I did the same thing the 20 years I worked with Kent City Schools as their network manager. I did a lot of planning there, and Roger remembers some of my handiwork at high school. So that's kind of my background. And then the other piece for me, I have probably 16 years total time on the Board of Zoning Appeals. I had a run 12, 15. Let's see, Don Martell was the safety director back then, or law director back then, so that's got to be 20 years ago. I did a stint. Because we still met in the old City Hall, which is gone. And then I had a 12-year run into my last current, which I had to leave finally. I was nearing the end of my term anyhow, and I had to leave for some personal reasons. But I kind of missed it. So when the opportunity to get back on the Planning Commission, which I've always been interested in, is it works very close relationship with the zoning board. We really do mesh the two worlds to get good quality development in Kent. And that's what I want to do. I want to make sure it's done right. I want to make sure it enhances the community. We do live in a very, very great community, as I've heard a lot of other people say tonight. So I just want to make sure it's done right. We do have a great code. It's been tweaked and adjusted, and last update really brought it up to snuff, I think. I was involved partially in that when we were, I guess, brainstorming type ideas to get the code when we were starting to update the code about 5 years ago. I was marginally involved in that. So that's my intent. I intend to stay in Kent. I want to see Kent stay as great as it is. We have some good things to do. 2 projects that would be kind of interesting. The bank, to get the ugly green stuff off of it. And the mill. It'd be neat to see the mill develop. I'd love to be involved with that. So that's kind of me and why I want to do this. I think I caught it.
John?
Being on the Planning Commission, do you think the new should be made to look old, or the old be made to look new, or somewhere in the middle?
I think every project would have to be decided on its own merits. I think when you have a historic building, it is nice to restore it to what it looked like. If the bank is a good example, it's probably too far gone, with what they've done to that building. You get it back, but we can at least get it to more attractive to match with the general tenure of what's downtown. And I wasn't going to say this, but I'm on the board of Town Hall too. And we're in the midst of renovating our building, which is we now own. We paid the mortgage off, and we owned the building, and that was built to be a bank. And it has kind of a modernistic look that was very popular in the 60s when it was built. And it's about the same time that Huntington Bank, Portage County Bank, Kent National Bank put all that green on that. But that was cool in the 60s. Good example of a building that's been restored back is what Carl Purcell's done with the corner, the southwest corner of Main and Water. The Thompson renovating that they did on the other drugstore is still sketchy, but it's not quite as far gone. Acorn Alley in that area has been marvelous development, I think. It'd be fun to be part of that and see future things. So I don't know, I've kind of beat around the bush on your question, but I think it's gonna vary on the project. If you have an old building, I think it's great if we can restore it. If we're gonna build a new building, it needs to fit in the tenure of what's already there in the neighborhood, which downtown probably would be the late 1800s look. Something going up out on the west side, or the east, up here may be entirely different. I remember when I was a kid, I belonged to Kent UCC Church, and we were the last thing in Kent to get practically to Ravenna. So that whole area down there, which is township, so we don't have a lot of direct control over it, but it is immensely built up. Does that answer your question, kinda?
Yeah.
Good.
Trey, did you have your hand up?
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you for your service on the BZA during a really intense time for Kent, when we were doing all, when all that downtown development was happening, and
the odd-shaped lights. I went through the Baker blow-up out on Lake Street. I missed the Sheets blow-up. I understand that was legendary. Although it's been a gas station on that corner for eternity. The Sheets is a little more bold than what had been there, but you know what? I don't know how we'd handle it in the planning commission. The building is clean, it's well maintained, it's relatively attractive. It doesn't necessarily fit the tenure of that particular neighborhood, but we're trying. I'm going to cite another example, what Bell Tower Brewing has done to our old church. It's magnificent. Besides the building looking good, they have really good beer. Good food too.
Well, I have a further question.
Go ahead.
So I've attended a few planning commission meetings. I tend to attend when I see that there is a rental property that wants to become a boarding house. Yes. And I go because I generally speak against those, because I am concerned, and I think many people on council might share those concerns, that we want to see our houses maybe even flip the other way, back to single-family homes, rather than duplex, triplex, or boarding house.
My tenure on BZA was the same tenure. Our mission is to not become a town of rentals. Rentals, like some of these buildings that have been built, are nice. Facilities, they're clean, they're well maintained, but houses should stay houses. And I think we have a strong code to stand behind this. Obviously, the planning commission, we would follow the code very carefully, and if somebody doesn't like it, they have the right to go to BZA, who then can say, And in the past, I think some things we granted on BZA probably shouldn't have been. We're only humans, we've made mistakes. We did a couple of things, but I think on the whole, BZA has done good, and I've heard a couple of rumors on earlier things with the planning commission that I would hope doesn't happen again. We can't turn something down just because we don't like it. Right. But it has to fit the tenure and the neighborhood and the code. It has to make the city better when we're all done.
Right. And it really has to go along with our vision for how we want to see it. So if there's any policy that needs to be developed, that's our role. But we do take recommendation.
We would work in conjunction with you to develop. I mean, I think we have a good ethos downtown, what we're doing in this central city area, but we want to expand that into the rest of the, like West Main Street, still one of our nicer neighborhoods. I am a west side. I grew up on Earl Avenue, so we're very proud of the west side. The Brick Street, the other Brick Street in Kent. And the South End is a nice neighborhood we want to maintain. Bowman Drive and all back in there is another one that's really nice. And then over by the University Heights area probably are our three premier.
I appreciate that you have a good focus on both the business districts and the neighborhoods, and I think that I very much appreciate the experience you have brought to this, and just wondering if anybody else has a question.
Rod, did you have your hand up? No? Oh, problem.
Yeah, this is my antenna up here. You're talking about what would you do regarding the south end? What do you discern as issues in housing there?
Well,
or
I think the South End's kind of cool because I think it's still a fairly nuclear community. I'm sensing that with
what kind of community?
nuclear families.
Really?
That, I mean, I'm sensing that with the kids I interact with crossing. Because my crossing gets all the kids from down along Elm, Oak, Guy runs this way, Harris Street. It's still a poorer neighborhood, so I think anything we can do to encourage people to maintain the houses as single family, keep them as single family, and if maybe there's a way we can provide avenues through grants or whatever to allow people to fix things up. I'm noticing growing up, and I'm a West Sider, but we did wander down to the South End when I was a kid in the 60s, and some areas were pretty run down, and I do think it isn't not as run down as it used to be. It still has issues. I don't know. But I think we can do as a city to help. I think the zoning down there, we're pretty stable. The South End, with the signage, what do you call it, the historic South End? I think that's been a really neat thing that we need to consider to support because it brings pride of ownership down there.
Yeah, I guess my question more to the point is, the vast majority of properties down the south end, like ones I guess throughout the community, have already become rentals.
I know.
And whether they're nuclear families that exist down there, a lot of them are transitory. They don't have roots. Therefore, the properties are in flux. The inability, you're not going to get a lot of funding going down there as pass-throughs.
See, I think the whole community is more. I'll share a comment I make. I tell people I want to live in the town I grew up in, and they look at me, well, didn't you grow up in Kent? I said, yeah, it's not the town I grew up in, or that you grew up in.
Right.
Bless you.
So we have become transient, and that's probably part of being a college town. Now, I worked in a town that was so transient, it was incredible, it was Hudson. I worked in Hudson for 30 years with hotel. And I mean, the average homeowner is up there 3-4 years. Now, they don't have rentals, but they have comings and goings, and they have people that are financed up to their eyebrows. So they can say they live in Hudson. My son lives in another town that's like that, Dublin, Ohio. I thought he was nuts when he bought the house, but he's been there 15 years now. I don't know. I think that's something we just have to see how it goes. But, you know, again, the tenor of the whole town is trying to get people back to home ownership and get rid of the rentals. I don't have a magic solution at this point other than just keep working on it. We worked on it very hard when I was on the BZA to block rentals. I think the code has toughened up what constitutes a rental versus rooming house versus a rental. Now, if somebody's renting a single-family home as a single-family home, there is code restrictions. At least keep that sanity, under sanity. We just have to do the best we can there, I think.
Right. Anybody else? Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next, we're in the Shade Tree Commission.
Rebecca Berryhill responded. She was not able to make it. James Jenkins had a medical reason for not being able to come. He is very much still interested, and I have not heard from Diane Papes.
Okay. We'll have to go by the applicants, and there's 2 vacancies there. Okay, sustainability.
Mary Jane Stone.
Hello, Mary Jane Stone, 133 Brady Street. So, when I was 8 years old, that's when I really delved into my environmentalism. I used to organize litter pickups with the neighborhood kids on my, and I'd be like, isn't this great? I'd grab some trash bags and we'd go out and I'd lead these kids on, trips up and down the neighborhood streets, picking up, and I'd be, isn't this great? And the kids were kind of like, I don't know, it's kind of weird, but we got nothing else to do, so yeah. Anyway, so that's a little background. So I have been very concerned about the environment since then, and obviously with everything that's been going on with global warming, that's been a big concern of mine, and I found some people who were standing on the corner for a while with signs, and I did that for a little while, and I do everything within my household and in my power to try to reduce my carbon footprint. But I felt called to do something a little bit more. And I wanted to do it within I wanted to do it right, I guess. And so that led me to the Sustainability Commission. And I came on 3 years ago, and I did not get to come to this interview then because I think we were in the middle of the lockdown then. So it's cool to be here in front of you guys tonight. I would like to reapply to be on the commission. Real excited that we finally have adopted the Climate Action Plan, or the KCAP as I've been calling it, and there's a lot going to be happening in the future, and I am very, like I said, excited to see that happen. Whether I'm on the commission or not, I'm 100% behind it, and that's it.
Questions? Heidi?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the
Should be
Climate
covered.
Action Plan. Do you think the Sustainability Commission has a role in implementing
did that.
the Sustainability Commission? And can you, if so, can you give an example? Or
Well, I mean, we've been working towards, in the past 3 years, we have discussed needing an actual paid person, a position, that will help, make this happen. And that has come about with Julie Morris. And also, we discussed needing to bring in, people who actually work with other cities and communities. And so Karamita came in, and I do believe that the Sustainability Commission is kind of the go-between between the citizens of Kent and Kent State and the the city, and just having, seeing it, helping it be implemented.
So I want to follow up on that, just to help you fill that blank in.
Thank you.
So we created the Sustainability Commission before my time, but still in recent history. And one of the purposes, I believe, was to bring to council policy suggestions so that we can move forward as a sustainable community. So I guess that might be something that, the citizens of Kent and, the consultants and the staff, but also the council. So I look forward to continuing a good working relationship with the Sustainability Commission and having you guys play an active role in what are we going to do next, kind of thing.
Yeah, very much so. I know, like, my personal interest is to help come up with some educational and outreach for citizens of Kent.
Further questions?
Yeah. When and how?
I'm sorry?
When and how?
When and how?
you plan to do that? The two items that you just stated, that you want to do education and outreach.
Well, we have
Is that already, or?
Yeah, we have quite a list of goals that we are working with, and you know, we only get to meet once a month, and you know, like some of the questions were like, are you surprised about anything? Being on the commission already is, you know, the whole way that the city works and everything that has to be run by everybody and vetted by everybody, that's been a real education for me. And so, you know, we are brainstorming right now about a lot of the things that we'd like to see happen. And of course, you know, we've had Bridget help us with all that. You know, like, oh yeah, you can't do that. Or this we might be able to do, you know. So we are discussing right now about having, it was temporarily or tentatively called a kickoff. But we are hoping to meet again with stakeholders and citizens to, you know, kind of introduce what's been happening so far. And things are moving in that direction, and I think that we're going to have a lot of really good information for folks in Kent.
Further questions? Good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Amy's got a deletion, or
We have a person that just came in. Her name is Diane Papes for the Shade Tree Commission.
Diane, come to the microphone, give your name and address and kind of an overview why. And thank you for applying.
Name and address and what?
Why you want to be part of it.
Okay. Well, my name is Diane Papes and the address is 503 Sunrise Drive, Kent, Ohio. And I would like to be on the tree commission because I love trees. I value them greatly. They are part of our survival on this planet. And first, I need to learn more about what we do on the commission, and I want to be a part of that.
Okay, questions? Roger, or Gwen, you haven't said much tonight. I want to hear it.
I've got some hard-hitting stuff for you. Do you have a favorite street tree that you'd like to see more of, and why?
Do I have a favorite
Street tree.
street tree? Well, I have one, but I don't know what the name of it is. It looks, the leaf is kind of like a maple leaf. I've seen it in other neighborhoods, not in Kent. And it's red in fall. It's red on the outside and green on the inside until it totally changes. And it seems to not grow higher than 20 feet at the most.
Who else had? Heidi, did you have your hand up?
I did.
Oh, all right.
I just wondered if you had any particular skills you would want to bring to this Shade Tree Commission.
Just that I'm an avid gardener. I'm not a what do you call it? I'm not a trained gardener.
Master gardener.
Thank you. I'm not a trained master gardener, but I'm an avid gardener.
There's a lot of us like that.
And I do all of my pruning on my trees and everything. So, yeah.
Further, Heidi? John?
By any chance, did the trimming of the trees by the power companies have anything to do with your interest in this commission?
It had something to do with it, but I was interested in it before that. I did go to the tree commission about that, and I came to this meeting, the council meetings about that, but I was already considering it when the last time there was no one. So, and that was before Ohio Edison came through the neighborhoods.
So instead of talking and complaining, you take action and you want to try to do something about it.
Exactly.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Further questions? Thank you, Diane. Like I said, we're gonna take a formal vote on the 15th. Are we done? Okay, on the 15th, and once again, thank you for being interested. Just apply. I mean, if for some reason something happens, you know, get a nomination for it, please do it again.
Okay, thank you.
We're going to executive session.
Yeah, I move an executive session
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Gwen, please call the roll.
Mr. Emery?
Yes.
Mr. Kuhar?
Yes.
Ms. Rosenberg?
Yes.
Ms. Schaefer-Bish?
Yes.
Mr. Sidoti?
Yes.
Mr. Turner?
Yeah.
And Ms. Wallach?
Yes.
All right, I need a motion. Mr. Ferrer had to leave, and Mike DeLeon had a conflict.
Move to excuse.
Second.
Second by Gwen, any discussion? All in favor signify by saying